Welcome to Senator Frankie's eMTB Adventures. In today's episode, we are going to rate the Turbo Levo Alloy with my newly invented Senator Frankie rating system. And we're going to discuss if buying the 2022 Turbo Levo Alloy is worth the $5,500. This is the first of many episodes where I'm going to try and rate each specific bike and its tier, so at the end of the year we can define a clear winner or bike of the year for this channel. For now, it'll be purely based on specs, as I do not have the ability or the resources to test these bikes, but in time, my hope is to work with these brands and test ride them at our local trail and give you guys more feedback. We will be rating these eMTBs based on my newly invented Send It Frankie scale. 10, you get to send it. 1, you'll get to lose it. The ratings will be based on 5 categories: cost, battery size in watt hours, motor in Newton meters, how well the electronics are integrated into the bike, and lastly, number of upgrades needed to match the price. This last part will be where my personal opinions make a big impact on scoring, which is where all the fun will be and where we will generate the most controversy. Each category will be rated on a scale of 1 through 10, and an average score will be given at the end, and we'll see where those numbers land and which models do better than the others. None of my advice is professional advice. I'm just an eMTB enthusiast. My points of view are only here to facilitate your decision and not to dictate what is best or the worst is. So with that being said, let's take a look at the Turbo Levo Alloy for 2022. Let's start with the MSRP, a very good price of $5,500, which I will give a solid rating of 8 out of 10. Given in today's market and inflation, $5,500 isn't all that bad. Plus, your bike is specialized and they put lots of R&D into their bikes. My wife has a 2019 Turbo Levo and we're still loving every bit of this bike. A very, very solid platform. So next, let's take a look at the battery. At the 500 watt hour, this came out at the lower end spectrum of the batteries. Back in 2019, we were already riding the 504 watt hour, and now in 2022, a 500 watt hour battery is just basic standard equipment. So we're gonna give it a rating of 3 out of 10. I would have given it a higher score if it had a 600 watt hour battery. So moving on to the torque, and trying not to favor which motor is better than the other, I had to resort to rating the motors based on the torque specs. Now you might be thinking, what about lightweight e-bikes? Wouldn't this rating be favor of full powered e-bikes? In a sense, yes, but there are lightweight e-bikes that already have 16 Newton meters. There are still a bunch of motors that are coming out into the e-bike space, and I want to just give it some room. So the Turbo Levo has one of the best torque ratings on the market. It is at a high 90 Newton meters of torque, which we will rate this at a 9 out of 10. Giving some room for future motors that may show up to have 95 Newton meters. I'm not really sure, it's just speculation, so I'm giving this motor a 9 out of 10. So moving on to the integration of the Turbo Levo, the power controls on the Turbo Levo is designed super well. The control unit is very easy to find, and when you need to adjust your power setting, and it really doesn't interfere with your dropper seat post or your cockpit. The ECU is pretty much one of my favorite integrated units. It sits right on top of the top tube with the power button showing how much power you have left and your assist levels. It has less cables running through your bars and the display unit. I would give this system a 9 out of 10, only because the Mastermind display is way better, and the Mastermind display is at a higher tier bike. So we'll leave that bike for another day and we'll give that a better rating. So we've come to the funnest part and the most controversial rating is the number of parts needed to match the price. This is very subjective, just my point of view, and I'm sure many of you guys have very valid points, and I hope you guys can draw your own conclusions. Again, none of our advice is professional advice, so take this with a grain of salt. The way we will rate this category is the number of upgrades needed for the cost. The higher the number, the lower the score. We will rate it based on the fork, rear shocks, drivetrain, the brakes, and consumables will not be factored in. Let's take a look at the fork. It's a RockShox 35mm silver, 160 millimeters of travel. I think at this price we could have at least a 36mm stanchion fork. And in my opinion, with a 35mm stanchion fork, everything is gonna feel very wobbly down steep terrain, rocks, or tech sections, so we can add 1 point to the list. The rear shocks are RockShox Select R. I think this is an okay shock and it fits the price, so we do not need to change this from the get-go. The drivetrain is an NX SX combo. While both are low end, I believe Specialized could have done a better job making a shifter and derailleur both to an NX. So we're gonna give that 2 points. Onto the brakes, the Guide RE isn't the worst and it isn't the best, but with the 4 pistons, you do have enough stopping power. So an immediate upgrade isn't necessary. Now, if it had something with a 2 piston, that would cause a point to be added to the rating. So a total of 3 points added, which gives us a score of 7 out of 10. Now remember, the more points added on for this rating, the lower the rating is on the overall. So now let's take a look at the scorecard total. We have an 8 out of 10 on the price, a 3 out of 10 on the battery, a 9 out of 10 on the torque, and a 9 out of 10 on the integration, and a 7 out of 10 on the parts. A total of 36 out of 50, giving us a 7.2 on the Send It Frankie eMTB scale. So do I think it's worth the $5,500? Yes, I think so. It passed with a solid C, so I say send it and press that buy button. Plus, I think you can have one hell of a bike if you plan on upgrading the parts, and the money you save up front, you can find some pretty damn good deals floating online right now. Well, there we have it, our first eMTB rated on the Send It Frankie scale. This rating system is by no means perfect and will need more feedback from you all, so please leave your comments down below to help me improve this rating system. I hope this has been an enjoyable video for you all. If you found this video to be helpful, please hit that like button. And if you can, support me on my Patreon page. We'll see you all next week. Peace.